First thing you gotta decide is what am I using the chicken for? Do you need it quartered for like fried chicken, where you would sometimes cut right through the hip bone, or do you need it broken apart like French style where you're gonna clean the whole thing up? Those things matter, okay? Today, what you're gonna be doing is grilling certain sections. So we wanna do a nice airline breast, which is also known as a Statler cut, and that's what we're gonna do with it. First thing is massage the bird. He had a bad life, so you gotta give him a little bit of a little rub down to make it feel better, okay? The reason you do that is because when they're packaged, do you see this like dent in the breast? That's where his leg was sitting up against him. You want to move that around and open up these spaces so that your knife doesn't accidentally cut a piece of meat that's kind of pushed out of place, all right? The next thing is there's always this globular fat in the cavity. It pulls out really easily. Just pull that off. If you're rendering chicken fat to use for anything, you can save that. The next thing is I always take the wishbones out. Whether I'm breaking down a raw chicken or I'm going to roast a cooked chicken, I always take these out so later on it's not an issue. You can use your, this is really like a boning fillet knife combo, but you can use your chef knife for this too. I always feel the rib bones, or I'm sorry, the collar bones. Go ahead and feel there. Feel where they're at, know where they are. Okay, feel there. It's right there. It's just like your collarbone. And so you're going to make an incision below with the knife, and you're going to feel again, you're going to make an incision above. When you're boning anything, 95% of your cuts are done with the tip of the knife, okay? So I cut below and above each side of this this collarbone, and what I'm gonna do is push with my fingers, and I'm gonna pretty much expose that bone like that. Sometimes, or often I should say, with these birds you're gonna get a broken wishbone. I've got a broken bone right here, and so you may have to pull it out in more than one piece. Normally it's very easy to hook and pull and get the whole thing in one, but if it's already been broken, then you may have multiple pieces to pull out. Right now this bird has his collarbone broken into 3 pieces, so 2 pieces, I got him. All right, there's your 2 pieces coming out. A lot of times you can get it one and pull it like a hinge. Okay, once you're done with that, because we want an airline, we're gonna take this wing, just like we were doing the roast birds, you're gonna cut across the bicep and swing your knife all the way around the bird. Okay, make sure that you cut all those tendons, and then just break the wing backwards and pull it right off of there. Right across the bicep. Spin them around. And then, like I say, like a kung fu movie, just give them a little chop action. Okay. Those wings, by the way, if you're roasting a bird, you can save those, season them, put them in a roasting pan with the bird, and then you can later taste the seasonings without eating your product and know if you have enough seasoning on there. The next thing is these are all set to go. Sometimes in a lot of classic cooking, you'll take the heel of the knife and just chop the edges off of these. And the idea, the belief is that more blood and juice can come out the end of the bone. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true, so I don't really bother with it. Next, you flip the bird back around. You have the cavity in front of you. You can see there's this flap of skin here, and on the inside there's a membrane there too. You're going to cut in between, but notice when you cut, you don't cut into the thigh by accident, and you don't cut into the breast. So I'll do it again on this side. You just cut like this, okay? Once you do that, turn the bird sideways. You ever spoon with someone during a movie? Just like you're spooning with the bird, watching your favorite movie, you're going to lay the bird on its side away from you. You're going to stick a finger in each hole, and you're going to break the back. When you break the spinal cord, you're going to notice that there are no bones in the way now. So you can run the knife right through here without hitting anything, and you just separate the bird, okay? Basically, you separate the torso from the saddle, okay? From there, with the saddle, we have these hips. The hip bones, go ahead and feel the hip bones there. The hip bones, this is sort of a big deal. You've got 2 muscles behind the hip bone, and then another muscle up here. This is the butt muscle, and then this is the oyster. Can you see the shape of that? That's known as the oyster. A lot of times we cut straight down and we miss the oyster, and sometimes I even miss that butt muscle, but we need that. So you're gonna take your knife, you're gonna just reach underneath the hip bone here. Now if you were doing fried chicken, you would cut straight through here because it should have a little bit of spinal cord on it. But if you're doing a nice refined bird like we're doing today, we're gonna be grilling this, we're just gonna cut in there and right along that concave bone. You can see it in there. Then once you open that, pop the hip, you heard it, okay? Get the tip of the knife in there, wiggle it back and forth and give it a little push. And what you're doing is stretching the muscle underneath that hip bone, and then just take the tip of the knife and cut underneath there. So you can see what I've done. I've opened up this. This is all empty and hollow now. This is open. But before I just go ahead and cut straight down, I still have that oyster to get out. With the oyster, there's 2 methods. One is you just take your knife and scrape. 2 is you stick your thumb in there and you actually kind of loosen it up and push it away. When you do that, it's a pretty easy cut. See how I did that with my thumb? Now I can take my knife right over the top, push, and down we go. See, oyster? It's called the oyster because you leave behind what looks like an oyster shell in the upper hip. Okay, that leg is done, separated. Today, because we're grilling, we'll probably separate that. If you're separating these, you see that fat line? A lot of people use that as their indicator. You can also bend the leg or cut through the back of the knee. But that fat line always tells you where the joint is, okay? Okay, same thing over here. We're gonna cut, feel, and cut and feel, okay? Okay, once you've opened up the bottom here, you're gonna take the tip of your knife and just cut and pop that out of the joint. Wiggle your knife, stretch it, cut inwards, okay? Then, again, you're gonna get your thumb in there. Just gonna open up that oyster a little bit and take your knife down and get that thing off. Okay? Spinal cord. With the spinal cord, what you can do is if you take just that little bit of back fat off, and if the tail is still attached, remove the tail, then this can go for stock and there's less fat rendering off into your pan, and it can get roasted off, ready to go. Okay? Back to this. Where do we cut again, guys? Where's the fat line? Someone showed. Right there, right? I think all three of you pointed in a different direction. I thought that was kind of funny. That's not true. All right. It did look like everyone's like pointing this way, that way. All right. Now that the whole saddle is done, now we've got the breast. For the breast, what we're going to do is we're not actually going to debone the chicken. We're going to de-chicken the bones, if that makes sense. Okay. Stand it up like a Pope sat, away from you. One finger on this side. If you're left-handed, you reverse this. See the spinal cord next to my finger? You're going to take the knife, and you're going to run the knife right along the spinal cord. If you go too far to the right, right here is the shoulder blade. And if you get stuck between the shoulder blade and this wing bone, you're going to be stuck. Okay? But if you go in between that wing bone, or I'm sorry, the shoulder blade and the spinal cord, you go straight down just like this. You'll hear a clicking noise as you go through pin bones. All right? Next thing is you take your finger, you push the fat out of the way. What's this bone called? The what?
Keel.
Keel bone. With the keel bone, we need to release it. The key is this little piece of white cartilage here. Just take the heel of your knife and you just do a little incision like that. And you push straight up from underneath. And you just push that up and you run your finger down one side, then the other. Okay? Release that. Usually comes out pretty easy and clean, but sometimes they can break apart and give you all kinds of hell. And so you just gotta eventually pull them all out of there. The next thing is touch with your finger, make sure there's nothing rough or gritty in there. If you missed a piece, you have to take the tip of the knife and scrape it, okay? The next step is to remove these rib bones in the neck. Down here, the rib cage, the lower rib, I use what I call the sewing needle trick. I go in and out again with the knife like that. It gives me a handlebar. From there, I take the tip of the knife and I just go under that rib cage and I scrape up. So even though it looks like my knife's pointed down, I'm scraping against those ribs. As I get closer and closer to that wing joint that I want to keep, I'm going to stop, I'm going to lift it up, let gravity separate the bird from the bone. I'm going to go into the armpit. See how gravity helped me out there? Okay, these rib bones can be roasted, added to stock. Can do the same thing on this side. In and out again. Hold that like that, scrape, and cut. Go right around that cartilage there, keep cutting down, don't waste any meat. Once you get to the armpit, hold it up, let gravity do the work, and separate that down. Okay? If you hit the elbow right here, or not the elbow, the armpit, and you can't find the joint, just move it around, you can identify that pretty easily, and then finish up. Okay, now what we have here is a full airline breast of chicken. Okay, to trim it, just pull away some of this fat. Never cut right up against the breast, just give yourself about 1/4 inch all the way around, especially with the skin, or else you'll over trim the skin. This is the same with duck. A lot of times you can accidentally over trim duck skin. And you don't want to do that when you're searing the breasts off, okay? Okay, now to create half airlines or Statler cuts, we're going to cut this right in half. The last thing you want to do is feel around and make sure that there are no bones left on there or anything that you missed. And because we're grilling this, we don't need the tenders attached, so we're just going to remove those with our fingers. Just run your finger down that little seam there and pull this away. If by chance you ever get one that wants to stay on or is stuck, Then you can take your knife and just cut and pull a little harder, okay? Once you're done, there's a little tiny tendon in here. You can clean that off if you can get a hold of it. Sometimes it's not worth it. It's a little piece of silver skin in there. If you can get a hold of it, then you just scrape your knife against it and it pulls right off. If I had a paper towel, it'd come a little easier for me. Hint, hint. Paper towel. Thank you.
Everybody.
Already done.
Well, you got another one.
Right. Well, I do have another one to do, right? Thank you. Okay. Anyway, with this one, again, just pull that right off of there. This one will be easier because you see it sticking out. And when it's sticking out, you can just grab it. Take your knife and scrape. Again, it doesn't require a real cut. It's just hanging onto the silver skin. Okay, fine. I'll use the paper towel. I changed my mind. I'm not going to use the paper towel. Now, these, are we frying today? We are, so we can do some fried chicken tenders with these, or you could grill them, all the same, okay? Silver skin off. Tender done, okay? The silver skins can go into the stock because they can still provide a little bit of something there. But that's your half airline breast of chicken, also known as a Statler cut. Trim that up and grill it out how you would like, okay?